Hey, Holly. Hey,
Hey, sir, how are you?
I'm working on your stuff. Hopefully you saw the emails. You're frozen. You look good, but you're frozen.
I did. I did.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Okay, hey, Will.
This is what happened when I try to do stuff at home.
Hey, what's
Yeah,
up,
I
Dennis?
understand. How's it going, buddy?
Doing good. Hope you are.
Yeah. Try not to look too close. Have you ever heard of an old baseball player by the name of Satchel Paige?
Can't say I have.
He was kind of a legend. I think he was the first black baseball player in Major League Baseball, or something like that. He was a big star in the 20s and 30s in the Black
Yeah,
League.
didn't he play for the White Sox?
Think so. Think so.
Yeah.
But what I remember about him, and they say he was probably 60 years old by the time he was in the major leagues, because there was so much blocking those guys. But he was so good, he kept playing. But one of his famous lines is, "Don't look back. Something might be gaining on you."
It's a good quote.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Dennis.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Oh, there you are. You look like you're in Mission Impossible or something. Black T-shirt, black operation. I don't know what you're up to over there.
I can't. I got too much to do in the morning to put on office clothes before I got to work service. So, I do a Superman change right beforehand.
It's great. I leave a shirt on the back, collar shirt on the back of my chair and just put it on when I sit down.
Yeah.
Zoom. Brady, you look like a monk. What are you doing?
Hey, yeah, it's the lighting, I guess.
No, you got a hood on.
Oh, yeah, I had too much to do for work this morning. I couldn't put on my office hair.
Yeah.
No,
I'm freaking out, man. All these guys dressed in black and wearing hoods. People start chanting and holding candles. I'm out of here.
No, this is called the look of barely any sleep this week because school's killing me.
Oh.
Yeah. Dennis, do you want to go ahead and make me co-host so I can let people in throughout the meeting?
Yeah, you can go ahead if I miss them.
Can you make me co-host?
Yeah, I'll make you co-host.
Perfect. Thank you.
I see you put the book up there. That looks pretty good.
Hey, man, we're all in it. We're all in. We're all together. It's we need all the help we can get. And I couldn't decide between your art and that book, and the book is just so much easier.
Hey, Ben.
Ben is a very successful artist in addition to all his other skills, and he has a website where he sells his art. And all I can say is you better have a high limit on your credit card if you're going to buy from that site. It's worth it, but you got to have the credit card. So.
Hey, Ben.
Yes.
Leslie Davis just officiated my wedding.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I heard she was doing stuff like that.
Yeah, she did such a good job. It was incredible.
Leslie's a blast. She's just an absolute blast to be with.
Who is she? What does she do?
She started as a line cook at Chef and the Farmer, and then kind of moved up over the years and became basically like our CDC. And she I don't know, she worked with us 5 or 6 years, maybe longer. Cool. She was awesome.
Yeah, when she's coming down to help test with the recipes, she stays with me and Julie in Greenville.
Oh, cool. Okay. I didn't know where she was staying.
So small world, but I look forward to hearing you talk today.
Now, you go by William or Will?
Will.
Okay. Okay. And Pressler?
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. I'll mention to her that I ran into you via Zoom. Next
And
time
actually, I had another really good buddy who worked for you for a while, Michael Waterman.
Yeah. He was from Greenville.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's a fun dude. He helped us open the boiler room.
Yeah. He's currently living in New Hampshire, working for a family as a private chef.
Okay. He always had the travel bug.
He never sits still.
No. No.
Again, something might be gaining on you, so you got to keep moving, right?
Well, he's also Dennis, he was Canadian, and he kept pushing for poutine on the menu at the boiler room. And that's kind of why it wound up on the menu there, because he was pushing pretty hard, and he made one, and we were all like, okay, we'll do it. And so it was pretty much his dish.
Well, I had never even heard of it before in my life until I was in your restaurant, and I can't remember who was with us. Someone was with us that absolutely had to have it, knew all
Mhm.
about it, and I just thought it was amazing. It's like something you'd make up after, one keg night or something. I know, I'll make this.
Well,
That's pretty good.
in Canada, I guess your body uses a lot of energy, so you need a lot of carbohydrates to keep yourself warm
That
in the
makes
winter.
that makes sense. It really does.
It's like hibernating
So-
bears.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from right on the Canadian border in upstate New York, where I was born and lived until I was about 10, Lake Ontario, just really close to the Canadian border. And I just remember the Canadians they could outdrink. New Yorkers can really drink, especially where I'm from, but the Canadians were another level. And they drank all this weird stuff like Labatt's Blue, and I can't remember all the brands at that time. I'm sure they're all over the place now, but back in those days, you could only get stuff like that in Canada. And I was always impressed personally with that proclivity and that ability. One of our many escapades, we bought the Hamilton, Ontario Tiger Cats, which was a St. Louis Cardinal farm team. And I didn't get involved in that particular deal, but apparently my brother and several of those guys would go up there, and they really they didn't come back the same as they went. Let me put it that way. It was quite the excursion to Hamilton, apparently. So I at that time, I think I had 2 kids and all that kind of stuff. So I was head down, but those guys enjoyed going up there. That's for sure. So okay, well, I think what we're going to do, that what'll happen, Ben, is I think I've said before, folks will tune in and
Trickle in.
as you go, and also we're going to record this with your permission.
Sure.
And a bunch of people will look at it when they're off work or whatever as well. So I wanted to just take a couple of minutes here. So Ben is one of the only other Yankees near where I live. He lives in Deep Run and I live in Pink Hill, which are abutting metropolises, very close to each other. And Ben is also a real serious basketball player at one time, as well as an artist and an entrepreneur and all kinds of talents. And we served together on the North Carolina Rural Center board, where Ben is one of the few people on the board who actually has experience with small business in rural North Carolina. Most of the other people are not in that same role. And so he brings a great perspective to the board that a lot of people seek out Ben. So we're very fortunate to have him today and to talk to us. And my last thing is his wife, Vivian, who you may know, Vivian Howard, is a chef, obviously. And she has a new book that's out, and you can see it in my background, and it's on, I think I got that off Amazon. But we have her first book, which is Deep Run Roots, which is pretty cool. And this is her second one. The first one was a New York Times bestseller, And my understanding, this is either is or well on its way to the same status. So I just put it up there for those of you who are looking for holiday presents or just want to get some recipes and some perspective that maybe you hadn't had before. So I wanted to be sure to point that out. Now, the other thing I'm going to ask everybody is to put your video on. You can turn the sound off, but I want your video on because I want to be sure you're not asleep. And if I call on you, I'm able to actually see you. So please do that if you can. With that, I'm going to introduce my friend, and I'm pretty sure the only other Yankee basketball player in Lenore County, Benjamin Knight. Or
Thanks,
Ben.
Dennis.
Okay.
Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate the plug on the book. I'm going to follow that up real quick. It is hot off the press. It actually released yesterday. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, very proud of my wife. It's a beautiful book. And a little known fact about both this book and her previous book is that she actually wrote them, which is kind of unheard of in the cooking world for a chef to write their own book. So there's only a couple people that do it. So anyway, I'm very proud of it. It's a lot of fun, and it does make a great holiday gift. So that's my shameless plug. Pretty excited to talk with you guys about a topic that's near and dear to me. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the businesses that I've been a part of over the last 15 years, but I'll kind of begin there and weave into this grander topic of authenticity in business and really creating a business that is true to your values as a person. My wife and I, we met in 2003 in New York working in a restaurant. And I had lived there. I had moved there to become an artist. And like most artists, worked in restaurants to pay for everything else because art is a difficult way to earn a living. We met working in a restaurant and started our own business out of our apartment selling soup. My wife had just begun cooking, was in culinary school, and we threw this party with our roommates. She made a big pot of soup and everyone was raving about it. And lo and behold, the next thing you know, we're sending out emails to everybody we know trying to hawk soup. And we did that for about a year and a half. And it grew and grew and grew and grew. We had probably 300 to 500 people on our email list at the time. And it was all referential. So everybody that was on the list got on the list because they knew somebody in their office or their friend circle that had purchased a soup. So about that time, several of my friends who were longtime New Yorkers living in the area, basically they said, Ben, you should open up a storefront. And so Vivi and I began to kind of start talking about actually making it a real business. We weren't incorporated at the time. We had no business licenses. We were making the soup in our apartment. All things that can get you in trouble. But at that time, her folks kind of were worried. I think that we were going to settle in New York and start a business and establish some roots. And so they offered to help us start a restaurant in Kinston. And I think that's really where the story begins in terms of thinking about a business that was true to our values as budding restaurateurs. And for us at that time, there was kind of a start to a movement, a slow foods movement, a movement about sourcing food locally, sourcing ingredients seasonally. changing the way you approach service in your restaurant, and really creating more of a local economic impact with your business than simply, having payroll and employing people. And so we set out to create a restaurant that focused its entire menu on sourcing local products. And as fun as that sounds, what we learned right away is that, when you set your mission for your business in alignment with your values, oftentimes that's a challenge in and of itself to execute. And so we went about trying to create this brand, this restaurant that was focused on quality, on sourcing local foods, and really being considerate of our community, of our clients, of our employees, and having all of those things grow along with us. We understood the value a successful restaurant could bring to a small town. We also understood that what we wanted out of our business and the products that we wanted to serve were unfamiliar, which is not unlike a lot of people starting a business. How do you educate your potential clients about your product? And we understood that there wasn't a tremendous amount of expertise in the region or peer groups in our region to access for help in this venture. So, these are all challenges that I think arise, particularly out of being in a rural environment, and make it, not more challenging than a city, but different, right? We didn't have competition in the same way that we would if we were in a larger market, and we didn't have other challenges in terms of certain costs, rent, employee costs, things like that are more challenging in an urban environment. Instead, we had, how do we get people to understand that we're not going to cook collards to death in a pot and serve them like everybody else, and we're not going to have a salad bar, and we're not going to have ketchup on the table for your steak. So, those are things that were different challenges. And for us, the idea that that this business would reflect our values was really central to how we approached our work on a daily basis. And that education component, I think, was really central. The first thing we had to do was we had to educate our staff on what it is that we wanted to aspire to. And I think, having that North Star and having that vision and sharing it with your staff, with your team, is really important. So the first thing we did, we hired 2 people in the kitchen, and Vivian and I took them to what was considered at that time to be the best restaurant in North Carolina, and also a longtime farm to fork advocate. It's a place called Magnolia Grill in Durham. And it had won several James Beard Awards, was nationally renowned, and just a really stellar restaurant. Oh, also owned by a couple. So we took our staff there because that's what we wanted to be like. And that was the best example that we could provide for them without having any reference points within a short distance. So we did that, and then we began to educate our staff on what sourcing locally looked like, the difference between commodity pork and pork raised on the ground, the difference between heritage breeds and heritage vegetables or heirloom vegetables from commodity products, and really why we believe, the quality of those things to be of a different level. Um, and that's not really attempting to make a judgment on the importance of commodity agriculture in our country or our society, but really to just emphasize that, focusing on quality in this way for us was about the end result on the plate. It was about the taste. It was about the experience that food can help provide for people when they break bread at the table. And quality is a large driver in that. And so that's how we went about starting that business. And I think, and y'all, please jump in with questions as we move along, because I'd like, to spend as much time as possible answering questions that you may have about starting your business, or problems that you have as your business changes, or how to, just address your mission and make it coincide with your values, which I think, is a challenge in and of itself. But for us, we grew up in this business. Chef and the Farmer is 15 years old now and has been through several cycles. 15 years in the restaurant world is a long time. And, we've seen our fair share of ups and downs. And we've also seen how our business has changed as a result of our personal changes and and how our values have changed over the years. When we first started, I use this as an example because it's kind of funny, but we wanted to have a lively restaurant. So all of the surfaces in the restaurant were hard surfaces, concrete, brick, things like that. We were 30 and we thought about other people, in our age bracket going out to eat and wanting to have a nice time and feeling like it was lively, like you were in a big city. And we got that. But then we also got the realization that most of our clients are over 40. A good percentage of those are over 50. They couldn't hear a damn thing in the restaurant. They couldn't hear each other. They couldn't hear each other while they were eating. And a lot of people were very upset about that. And so, when we were younger, we were like, we'll just have to survive without them. And then we realized that, that's going to be a bigger challenge. So we went about trying to soundproof our restaurant. Now, as we're older, we've done things in the restaurants to mitigate a lot of those sound issues because we can't hear each other either. We've aged into our own demographics. But that's just a small example. But I think a bigger example for us was initially attempting to educate our staff and our community about our product and what differentiated it from the other choices people had in the area. That changed quite a bit as we gained a reputation. The product in and of itself, it essentially spoke for itself before people came. And the challenges changed. We went from people walking in the restaurant saying, "I've heard this place is pretty good. I hope you can live up to it," to, people knowing all about the story of the restaurants. And our job became, people coming from all over the country on a special trip to a small town and feeling the weight and responsibility of making that a worthwhile endeavor on their part. And so our mission within the business became more centered around our team, our staff, uh, our culture as a company, and how our daily work really reflected in the service that we provided our guests
Hey, Ben,
while they
I,
were there.
I seem to remember somewhere along the line, if it was a customer or Vivian's mother, who it was very upset that you didn't have French dressing for your salad.
Oh yeah, you might know Butch Howard, Dennis.
No,
He's a farmer in Deep Run too.
okay.
Yeah, so we had quite a few folks that I think initially really wanted us to have things that were familiar, and I joked that for the first 4 or 5 years we were open, if I got too much positive feedback on a dish, Vivian was going to take it off the menu. So I began to warn our regular guests not to let her know that if they like something too much. But that's, the big advent for us was really changing. Once we figured out how to serve a quality product, was how do we sustain and maintain that without killing ourselves moving forward. And that's really where the emphasis and the values in our business began to change to, what I like to call servant leadership, which is a borrowed term from a company that I admire called Zingerman's Delicatessen. And that kind of brings me into this next part of what I wanted to talk about, which was creating the culture that embodies the values that you have centered your business around. As I said, for us, quality was essential. But then being considerate of our community, being active members, giving back, being considerate of our staff's needs, both in terms of what they need to do their job, but also what they need to make a comfortable life for themselves. It's very hard to run a successful service when you have folks who are worried about who's taking care of their kids. If they go to the table and they're waiting on folks and trying to take care of their guests, it's going to be inauthentic right from the get-go. Our staff needs to feel deep down a sense of pride about what it is they're doing if they're going to be able to communicate this quality-driven experience that we want. And so for us, it really became about how do we drive that home on a daily basis, and how do we get people to buy into this mission and understand that working in a restaurant is really about much more than serving a plate of food. So I kind of embarked on this mission to learn how to be a better manager, and how to be a better leader, and how to create structures that really mitigated the amount of stress in the work environment. And I think that's where this mission led me. I found this company called Zingerman's, which started as a delicatessen in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And y'all definitely should spend some time looking this up. They have grown into an $80 million a year business, really defining their workplace by its culture, and empowering their employees to not only be decision makers, but understand all of the financial aspects of their decisions and how it impacts their business. And then also to help the business grow by bringing ideas to the table that allow the founders of the business to invest. And so they've grown by investing in people in their organization and partnering with them. So now they have a bakery, they have another restaurant, and then most importantly, they have this consulting wing called Zinc Train, which I have sent a handful of my staff to, and I have participated in as well. And it really helps drive home the whole idea behind servant leadership, what it means to provide a certain kind of workplace for your team, and how that really impacts and drives bottom line results. And I think, this is something that you read more and more about in the business world, whether it's from the Harvard Business Review or any other business schools that are leading examples of contemporary business theory. A positive work environment is beneficial in a multitude of ways for your bottom line. But more importantly, it's your work family. If your work family is not happy and they're not healthy, they're not going to do as good a job. And so that became our driving force and sustains us as we move forward, and even in this COVID-filled era of a whole new set of challenges. Now,
Ben, I just on this point here, in the group, we've had some speakers talk about what is your why? Why are you doing this? And it's the same sort of message as far as, are you doing it as aligned with your values, what you think, what you believe? And Ben is being quite modest here, but just to give you some idea of how hard their why was stretched. I'll probably have some of the details wrong, but they had 2 major fires that almost put them out of business. They've had, of course, COVID, a series of incidents that you would generally think no small business could survive. But they're still going. In fact, they've expanded to Wilmington, which Ben will tell you about. But I want to point out that living your values, having your business reflect your values, where it really comes in and really kind of demonstrates the power is when really crazy stuff happens that would most often knock you out of business, and you keep going. And so I did want to highlight that, especially not only what Ben is saying, but what we heard yesterday from John and earlier from Tom Newell and some other folks about how important and how critical that construct is.
Dennis, that's a fantastic point. We had a fire in January of 2012. And if we didn't have a measure of buy-in to what we were doing as a company with the team that we had, it would have been an insurmountable challenge to reopen. And because we had a core group of people that were there, that helped clean, that helped reset up, that helped build furniture, that did all sorts of things that they didn't have to do. It brought us closer together and really forged a way forward for us as a company. And that's really where this understanding of company culture became so important to me. And I think what Dennis said about why, what's your why? The first thing I had written down here today was to ask you, what's important to you? What are your values? um, you know, it's easy to talk about, but until you write them down and really look at them, it's hard to create a pathway towards that in your business. And then that pathway is how you align the values with your business, and you're not going to start where you end. So get used to the fact that your values are going to change as your experiences change. But as long as you're moving towards those values at all times, you'll be able to adapt and be successful in your mission.
Does anybody want to jump in here?
Yeah.
Ben's asking, what's your why? Will, why don't you jump in? See, let's hear what you have to say. You're first on my screen. I apologize.
Well, instead of talking about my why, I do have a question for you, Ben.
Yeah.
What was probably one of the, not early failures, but maybe like a mishap that happened early on in y'all's startup that y'all learned the most from?
I think as a business, what we struggled with early was just organization. And I'll give you a story. I don't really share that often, but we're so far removed from it now that it's not going to do too much damage. But in Kinston, we have this company called Field Controls, and they're owned by a family out of Chicago that at that time owned the Memphis Grizzlies. And they were dining in the restaurant with a group of their executives, one of whom I knew pretty well with his wife. And they're having a dinner. And this is probably a year after we opened. And the person working our salad station was an older woman who I loved and still love immensely. But she was a little clumsy. And she was making the salads for this table, and there were 6 salads. And she puts them up to be run, and I'm running them to the table. I run the first set of 3 salads to the table. I come back, and I'm grabbing the second set of 3 salads, and she says to me, I lost the peeler blade. I can't find it. And at that time, we were taking Y peelers and shaving Parmesan onto the salads, and I guess while she was doing that, the blade broke off of the Y peeler. And I looked at her and I go, did you check in the salad bowls? Did you check? And, this is Saturday night and we're busy as all get out. And I just thought, okay, let me run these salads. I'll come back and help her find it. I go and run the salads, drop them off at the table, come back, and we can't find the blade anywhere. About that time, my friend walks over to me from the table. They were sitting in a raised area of the restaurant, and I was over on the far side. And he comes up and he says, hey, can I talk to you for a second? I said, okay. And at this point, I knew something had happened with this blade at the table. He pulls me into the kitchen. He pulls out the blade. He goes, I bit into this. And all I could think was, how lucky were we that my friend bit into it and didn't get hurt versus the owner of the Memphis Grizzlies, right? So, it's a fortunate circumstance that was a big lesson. And for us, the lesson really became about how do we organize our team and organize our system of communication and organize ourselves so that we can prevent serious catastrophes from happening. Obviously, we failed at that instance, but we also, failed with the fire. that was a situation where we didn't know a certain thing, and it caused a fire in the restaurant. And it happens over and over again. And that, you're going to have your first serious mishap. And I think what you learn from it, what you take away from it is always going to be the same thing, which is, how do you demonstrate vulnerability? How do you show leadership? How do you, if it happens to affect a client, how do you show that client that you care about their business, and that you care about their business in a way that is as important as your business? Those are things that will carry you through. It's kind of like a Tolstoy. Any of you ever read Anna Karenina?
Yeah,
So
they made me in high school.
yeah, there's the opening, and you just read the first line or second line. It's in the first two paragraphs. There's this line in it I love. It says, and I'm going to butcher this, but you'll get the gist. All happy families are alike, and all unhappy families are dissimilar in their own way. Something to that effect. And, all well-run businesses are alike. And how they're alike is that they're organized. They work on getting more organized. And they treat their clients and their people with a level of respect that helps them overcome obstacles.
Yeah. I'm going to call on David. He hasn't been here for a while. David, what is your take on either your why or things that happened to you think Ben would be helpful with?
Am I the only David on the call?
You are.
Hey, Ben, I really appreciate your story. And my wife and I eat at the restaurants all the time. So thank you for coming today. Hey, I do want to share with you a real quick story from last time I visited Charleston. Y'all were talking about the book at the beginning, and I was in this pretty famous fried chicken place down there, and I have a copy of the book, and so I saw the book sitting over on a shelf, and I picked it up. I said, "Oh, hey, so I see you've got a signed copy of this book. Did Vivian Howard stop by?" And she said, the lady running it said, "Oh yeah, she stopped by." She said apparently she cooked some really good food up in North Carolina, and I wish I'd had time to sit down and talk with her, but we were cooking a bunch of chicken that day. But yeah, I think the why is really important, and every time I've been able to hop on a call with Dennis and the group, we've heard a similar story from every business owner, and I think it proves your point that that's something that we're all going to find similar in success, is pursuing your mission and doing the things that you think are right. And thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right. Anyone else want to jump in, or Ben, do you want to keep going? I don't mean to interrupt you.
Well, I want to ask some questions of you guys.
Good.
For each of you, obviously you're doing different things. You're in different industries. What is it that brought you to the point at which you decided to leap into creating a business?
Darby, you want to start out?
Yeah. So
I knew you did. I knew.
And I'm asking this because I think one of the things I've learned about economic development is the story is maybe the most important thing. So, think about that too.
Oh yeah. So I know all the other people have probably heard this quite a few times from me, but our business is definitely my passion. And it came about, my wife and I run a makerspace here in Greenville. So we have the full wood shop, metal shop, and our goal is to provide the tools to the community. Works like a gym membership where, people join as a member and then they have 24/7 access to all of the equipment. Um, and it all started because summer before last, I was complaining to my wife, apparently too much, that we didn't have any maker spaces around. And she's like, well, why don't you start one? And I had never considered, being a business owner. Wasn't really something that I was interested in. But my passion for, being able to come into the shop and build stuff and do things and teach people overrode that entire, mindset of I'd rather just work for somebody else. And looking back, it's, you know, I always had issues working for other people because I didn't think they valued my opinion as much as I did. So now I have that control. But when I talk about the shop and when people come in, I still get goosebumps just explaining it. So yeah, it's definitely, I have the why that's fully rooted in passion for what I do and just teaching people. That's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
Cameron, how about you, buddy? You're muted, Cameron. Can't hear you.
There we
There you
go.
go.
So I know you've heard this story. I talked about it in the pitch a little bit. This is kind of my why and when I realized there's an opportunity for it. But I started my business in 2016 as a freshman at DCU. So I was doing as freshmen in college do and going through all of my graduation money. And I was on my last dollar at Pantana Bob's downtown. And I had on one of my vintage hats. And this kid comes up to me and he's like, dude, that hat is so sweet, man. I'm like, thanks. And we get to chat and he was like, can I buy it? And I'm like, dude, we're sitting downtown, man, hanging out. And sure enough, I didn't want to lose this hat because I wore it all the time. So I'm like, all right, give me $50 and it's yours. And this dude pulled out $50 and bought it directly off my head. And so I found out later it was his, similar to me. My father gave me that hat and his father had one that was similar and had passed away. So I was able to kind of, I don't know, give him closure, I guess, but give him some nostalgia and a good memory there. And we just ended up talking after that. And I still talk to that dude to this day, one of my first friends in college. So I realized there was an opportunity there to not only make money, but, give people a piece of their childhood or good memories. And that's where it kind of went from there.
Now, I bought one of Cameron's shirts that reminds me of when my kids were little, because that brand of Nike was popular at that time. So I was really surprised to see it on his website, and I hadn't even thought about it probably since 1990 or whenever it was. So
Also, I wanted to say thank you, Ben. We're my girlfriend and I were frequent visitors to the boiler room. You guys are, do you own that?
We do. We did.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering if that was going to come back. I hope it does.
It actually, we actually closed it down in that space. So for now, no. But we still have
he
the
does
sign.
have a pizza place in Wilmington that's killer. Benny's Big Time Pizza in Wilmington is, I'd say, equal or as good as Boiler Room, if not better.
Thank you,
I'll have
Dennis.
to check that out. Thank you.
Yeah, you'll like it.
You can tell where my heart is. I like pizza and burgers. So
How about you, Sawyer? I know you're sitting there thinking, ready to say something.
Yeah, I like pizza a lot. I'll have to try that out. Benny's Big Time Pizza, you say?
Yeah.
Benny's Big Time. That's where I'm sitting
How does
right
that
now.
compare to New York?
It's a Neapolitan style pizza, so it's super thin and wood fired and a big challenge to make. But it's I eat it every day. So that's my sales pitch, right?
I eat pizza
Oh,
every
yeah.
day, so it sounds like it's
Yeah.
worth the drive.
guys are nuts.
Brady eats Yaba every day.
Yeah, it was good.
Well, I don't know. After Cameron just went, I don't know if I'm going to be able to even compare to that. That was a pretty solid story there, Cameron. For me, I don't know. I've been heavily influenced, by people in the fitness industry. Almost like they were role models to me as I was younger and in high school, and kind of had an idea of who I wanted to become as I got older. And being able to be a role model for kids younger than me, maybe to inspire them to become their best version of themselves. That's a lot of the reason why I do what I do, as far as getting up early, going and hitting the weights and stuff like that, and just trying to create my best version of myself, and hoping to inspire anybody and get them motivated to become the best version of themselves. That's the really biggest driving factor for me. I've got a nephew. He's 2 years old now, and he doesn't even obviously know how to say my name or anything. But one day he's gonna get to be 5, 6, 7 years old, and hopefully I can influence him to play baseball or sports, keep him out of trouble, just, make something out of himself, whether that's, academically or on the sports field or whatever, but just creating that mindset to, inspire and help those around you to just become the best version of themselves and not get complacent with life.
So are you doing personal training?
So I do personal training. I do some apparel, but mainly sell supplements like pre-workout.
Okay. Cool.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Ashley, what do you have to say?
Hey, yeah, so I pretty much started my jewelry business a couple years ago. Ever since I was little, I've been making simple jewelry and just beaded bracelets and stuff like that. I was a cute little kid and people would buy it from me then, but obviously you grow up and people don't buy it from you just because you're a cute little kid. Like, I'm an adult, like no one's gonna buy it from me for that reason. But I always liked, for me, I love my little artistic ability and like to be able to create new things. And honestly, all the jewelry you see in stores and stuff like that, everyone has that. It's very common. You could get it anywhere. It's all the same kind of stuff. So I wanted to come up with something that was like extra unique. And for me, I don't have a lot of style. So if I can dress up an outfit or something with a simple necklace or something that I made that's like obviously no one else has, it gives a little sense of like uniqueness and individuality. And so I started making copper jewelry, which allows me to make jewelry with anything I can find. So I can go out to my yard and find a leaf if I wanted to and copper plate it. And hey, no one else has that piece. So just giving that little bit of uniqueness and just the creative freedom that I have is like a big reason why I really love what I do. And it's kind of the reason why I started. I always had been kind of business minded. The thought of working for someone else is that always kind of stressed me out. So I was like, maybe I can figure out my own thing. And then through that, I found, the whole vision of Copper Ashes is to inspire purpose through nature in the form of wearable art. And because most of the pieces are nature inspired, I want people to realize these things are all part of some bigger thing and they're important. And so I guess when people wear my work, I want them to be reminded of their purpose in life, and then also the power and beauty of nature and their purpose in it. So that's kind of one of the things that how I got started and what's kind of keeping me going at this point.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
I see a whole bunch of them hanging there, huh?
Yeah, I just kind of hang them up there. I don't have any close.
Just from a background perspective, that's a nice piece in and of itself.
Cool.
Yeah.
I call on Holly, but her internet's terrible, so I don't know if you can try, Holly. I'll leave it up to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Holy crap. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I'll be short-lived for sure. So, kind of my why, and it'll kind of go full circle here though. I grew up on a farm. This is my dad's business. And, I kind of took it for granted growing up. And, I just assumed that everybody lived the farm life, went to school, got a big girl job, and then learned really quickly that the corporate mindset didn't really match what I had in mind. So I'm still working my full-time job, but obviously I've really devoted a lot of my time to my dad's business and his farm, and really kind of bringing it up to speed to this new world that we're in. And really my goal is to, give everybody who's never lived on the farm an opportunity to have a day on the farm and kind of experience where their food comes from and also have a healthy option, and plus our ice cream, of course.
Holly's farm will be coming online selling some of their products probably within about 3 weeks. We're working on that kind of behind the scenes. He's going to have one of the best e-commerce setups in the state of North Carolina.
Excellent.
Pretty exciting.
Now, where's the farm located?
The big city of Vanceboro.
Oh yeah, we had a long time member of our restaurant who's from Vanceboro.
Who was it?
His name is Justin Anderson.
Justin Anderson. Probably know his face.
You
There's not
can-
many of us.
There's not many of you. I know.
So, well, I think that's the whole group. Brady doesn't want me calling on him. He says he's studying, so I'm not
Oh,
supposed
he's
to call
okay.
him.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other thing they want to?
So Cameron, what's your website? I know you said you mentioned it. You have one.
You talking about Holly?
No, you said Holly's is coming online, but Cameron, didn't you say yours is up already?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's shoptailgateclassics.com.
Okay.
Hey, Cameron, actually, I got a pretty funny story for you. I was walking back from a dorm to my house with a group of guys, and it was right when the bars were opening downtown, and 3 Marines came running out of nowhere. And they were like, we need somebody's pants. He's wearing gym shorts, and they won't let him in the bar with gym shorts. And so he looked at my buddy and said, let me buy yours. And he threw out like a ridiculous number, like $100. And went to the next person, and he was like 60. I dropped my drawers and sold him my pants for $50 on the spot and walked back to my house in my boxers.
Good weekend.
Certainty and urgency. Hey, certainty and urgency drive all sales. He needed them, and it was urgent.
Yep.
Supply and demand.
Yeah.
That's actually like more. I've heard so many stories about that, especially the Marines. It's always the Marines that are always buying it because I guess they all come up and go to Club Still Life, and they got a strict dress code, and so they can't drive all the way back to the base or anything. Like they're coming up for one night. So I've heard a few guys do that. I feel like there's a business idea there.
Just a little pants stand.
Yeah, a pants app. Yeah.
One time I was at the Homestead Resort, which is a fancy resort in Virginia, and I went down to dinner. I was with this big group, and you had to have not just a shirt and tie, but you had to have a coat, which I did not have. All I had was a shirt and tie. And then maitre d' goes, "Oh, no problem. We keep coats for people like you." And he goes and gets I think it was like a green sport coat. And I said, "Thank you very much." And I put it on, and I was kind of straightening my shoulders, and I split it right down the back because it was way small. And I said, "Now it fits great. Thank you very much." And he was just looking with his mouth open like, "Shit." Yeah. So,
It's the Tommy Boy story.
So I got a question for you, Ben.
Yeah.
What is the new adaptations? That's not a real word. How have y'all adapted to the possible new change in the new world with COVID, especially since y'all's business has been cut by capacity?
It's a great question. I think. Sorry, my earbud came out. I think this caught us in a large extent by surprise, as I'm sure it did a lot of people. And I think, this is we've had several crises in our businesses. This one is the strangest. And it's strange because there's not a right or wrong direction, it seems like, especially early on. Like, do you stay open? Do you close? What's safe for your staff? How do those things relate to the values of your company? All these different aspects that came into play. For us, our staff in Wilmington views COVID very differently than our staff in Kinston. And we opened in Wilmington first, but that took a little longer because a lot of team was just not real comfortable early on with the exposure. And in Kinston, folks are more comfortable with the exposure. And so there's that factor. And then there's the factor that Vivian has, which makes it a little bit more unusual, is that most of her peers in the state, you know, chefs with some sort of profile or, you know, recognition on some level, a lot of them are still closed. And you know, closed, I think in a large part because of the fear of the exposure and the risk to staff and having to open and close again. And so, you know, a lot of that has been a huge challenge to kind of sift through. For us, you know, the lesson in Wilmington was opening sooner is better. Because really, like anything else, the more exposure you have to a situation, the better decisions you make. And you have to start. And I think, you know, we're about to open Chef and the Farmer, and I think that'll be a big help and a big boost. It was a huge boost to morale when we opened the doors at Benny's. And then the last factor is that the PPP that we were fortunate to receive, you know, it worked well for us because we did close right away. And then we opened slowly. And, you know, one of the main provisions was that you had to rehire all of your team. But that provision had a caveat that you didn't have any restrictive capacity issues or forced closures. So, you know, for us, being at 50%, actually, I think helped us retain as much of that cash in our cash flow as we could. If we had to reopen and there was no restrictions and we were at 100% capacity and had the opportunity to run business as normal, but had to rehire every single person, we would have had a big issue because the demand wasn't there. So we would have been doing, you know, 60, 70% of our revenue. And in order to take advantage of those funds, which we needed, you know, we would have had to hire everybody. And a lot of people didn't want to come to work. They were scared, or they had pre-existing conditions, or, you know, they lived with their mom and their mom was elderly and had pre-existing conditions. Or, I mean, there's just a whole variety of personal circumstances to take into consideration. And so, you know, for us, it wound up working out because we were able to ramp up, start slowly, hire a few people back who could come to work, slowly build our business back, learn some protocols to keep ourselves safe, be able to implement those slowly. And you know, now we're opening tonight at Benny's for the fourth night. We've been open Thursday through Saturday. Now we're going to open Wednesday. And that's in a large part because I lost a lot of staff from this COVID situation. And then we'll back into Tuesday when it's more stable. But this has been a huge undertaking. I honestly haven't worked this hard since we had since the bowl room opened, I'd say. It's been a ton of work, and it's been hard, and I'm sure it has for a lot of people. And unfortunately, I don't see a rapid recovery. If that was in the forecast, I think, you know, I'd have far more demand for the 50% tables that I have than I currently do. So, you know, now it's about how do you survive 65 or 70% of your revenue. You know, how do you structure deals with your landlords? And how do you restructure your loans? And, how do you get away with a little bit less salaried employment? You know, all the things that you know make it more difficult. But that's the reality we're in.
I have great confidence in Ben, though, because I don't think very many of his competitors have read Anna Karenina.
I don't know that makes me a better business owner, but I do like literature.
Well, you learn as a marketing guy, you pick out the things you have that no one else has and blow them out of proportion. Well, Ben, we really appreciate you taking time to visit with us today. I know it's been very, very helpful. And don't forget Vivian's book, This Will Make It Taste Good. It's on Amazon. It's on my little background here. And Benny's Big Time Pizza is now open Wednesday and Thursday through the weekend. So if you happen to be in Wilmington, don't miss it.
You know, I didn't talk about this, but visit my website, benjaminknight.com. I have a bunch of work on there, so you can kind of see that.
I'll post that in our what we call our Slack channel, so you can take a look at Ben's painting. He's quite an accomplished artist, in addition to his other talents. So, Ben, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Dennis. My pleasure.
We'll see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Good luck to everybody.
Thank you, Ben.
Good luck.
And station tomorrow.
Shoot me. I'm on that on the group. I forgot what it's called, but if you have questions, holler at me. My email is ben@benjaminknight.com. So real easy. You want to have a Zoom coffee or a Zoom beer and ask me questions about what you're doing. Holler at me. I love helping people.
Thank you, Ben.
Really awesome. Right. You the man, Ben.
All right. Take care, guys. All right.
Thank you, sir.